are now listening to a Forward Mile Podcast Network production.
All right, welcome into the Vegas Squares podcast. We are live watching the Players Championship right now, looking at the leaderboard, and your boy Schwartzel, who we had on the article on VegasSquares.com, is currently tied for the lead at 10 under par. And who I am talking to is Token Tony. He is on the phone. We are the Vegas Squares podcast, brought to you courtesy of 12 Ounce Sports Radio, the Forward Mile Podcast Network on forwardmile.com. We are brought to you also courtesy of chaipoker.net. And with that being said, Token Tony, Charles Schwartzel is looking like he's maybe going to get us a nice payoff here.
Yeah. If anybody took him out there, looking pretty fine right now. I'm projecting after this round he'll be probably 2 shots behind the leader, though, but still looking pretty good into the weekend.
Yeah, most definitely. Watching the tournament a little bit this morning, we might not have set that bar high enough as far as the water balls for 17. I think the first round, there were almost 11 already.
Yeah, that's been playing as the toughest hole so far this week. That's playing, I think, at 3.3, which is pretty rough for that hole.
Yeah, it's definitely over.
Must be a lot of the... Yeah, definitely crosswinds are probably contributing to that, as well as our club selection is critical on that hole. So.
Well, definitely today with the pin being in the back, it is a bit windy there right now. You got to get the ball up and you got to get the ball back, which may cause a little bit of stress. I see a lot of players who are making the green. They're making it, but they're falling very short.
Yeah, into that bottom lip area.
So I look at this leaderboard, and there's not a lot of names that the casual golf fan would know. Webb Simpson, who is a major winner, Schwartzel as well, but then you got Patrick Cantlay, Chesson Hadley, or Chasen, however you say his name. You got Schauffele, Xander Schauffele, who's not a household name. Charles Howell III, who is a major winner, but he hasn't been relevant in a very long time. Norin, who shit the bed for me for in the Masters, which I told I then said, I would never, I'm not going to take him for a long time until he shows up. Well, he's 7 under right now, T8. You got a couple guys. Jason.
Yeah, he just dropped a couple shots, so he's at 5 under for the tournament right now. So.
Okay, I must have some delayed stats right now. What was I saying? You do have a couple guys that people do know. Jason Day and Dustin Johnson are both, Day's round is over. He's 8 under par. DJ's still out there. From what I have, it's 7 under par right now.
That's what I have as well.
Okay. So, you look at this field, and a lot of times, guys who win this tournament aren't necessarily people that you know. Ricky won it a couple years ago, but like last year, Siwoo Kim, and speaking of Siwoo Kim, he's still in the hunt for this year as well. I believe he's 5 under at this point.
I have him 4 under.
Okay, so 4
right now.
He dropped a stroke.
Yeah.
Do you see one of the guys that we talked about, because Day and Johnson were some of the favorites to win going into this tournament, and you had guys like Schwartzel, who we had at, I think it was 100 or 125 to 1, something like that.
100 to 1 it was on Vegas Insider.
And I think
Futures.
I think Webb was closer to 200 to 1 at this point, and he's rocking a 10 spot.
I believe, yeah.
So
yeah, and he might be in the lead after this round in the clubhouse. So
yeah, who do you think the weekend favors more? The guys who the crowd favorites of Day and Dustin Johnson, or the guys who kind of fly under the radar, the Cantlays, the Simpsons, etc.?
I would say based on this course, I would say more of the people that aren't as well known as like DJ or Sergio or anything like that. I think that's who it favors, as long as they can keep calm under the pressure and just keep on coasting through and keep the ball in play.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough course. And, I mean, if you haven't read the article yet, I mean, I've played this course before. And, I mean, I don't light the world on fire when I play golf. I like to see the entire course, and that includes the trees, the sand, the water. I like to see the whole course when I play, so that's why I hit my golf.
Yeah, I'm usually about the same as well. So,
but it's some of those holes to me don't seem very tough. The scoring holes that are available, you have to get when you can, because 16, 17, 18 are such a daunting challenge at the end of what you've already played 4 hours. So.
Yeah, you're mentally drained coming into those beasts, and hopefully you come out alive.
Yeah, you almost have to get you almost have to get strokes in the early part of the round, because you're almost inevitably going to give back one or two in the later part.
Yeah. As I saw, hole 2 is playing the easiest hole on the course. I believe it's playing almost a half stroke under par, which is a par 5.
Yeah, they definitely. I remember hole 1 and hole 2 are definitely just straightaways that you can, as long as you don't have a slice or a fade on your tee shot, you can definitely get up into some low numbers.
Well, that's definitely a problem for my game. So
straight tee shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Although lately I've been hitting them pretty well. So.
Yeah, Rory Sabatini moving up. I mean, they got a lot of guys here. I mean, Kuchar's a guy you talked about. You and I talked about this week about looking at Jimmy Walker's always a guy who on any given week, he's 7 under right now. He can make a run. He's got majors in his blood, so there's a lot of guys on the top here. I mean, and let's look at some of the guys, I don't see Rory off the top on top here. Help me out with that. I mean, Tommy Fleetwood is a guy I had in my matchup against Bubba Watson. They're both 3 under par. So, where is
Rory's 1 under par for the round right now.
Yeah, there he is.
Or 1 under for the tournament. Yeah.
1 under.
Even through 5 today.
Thomas is 1 under par. Tiger's 1 under par.
Yeah.
And then you got Spieth, I believe, is 1 over par. But he's 2 under today. So I mean, he's had that roller coaster like he does. I mean, if you remember the Masters, I believe, what did he shoot? 7 under the first round and 4 over the second. So.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
He's definitely not out of it, but I mean, at 1 over at this point, he's got to make a charge. He's got to get to 4
to me even make the cut. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got to.
I believe this cut's probably going to be like -2 the way things are shaping up.
Yeah.
With everybody still playing.
This is a T70 cut, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so as it stands right now, Tiger would be in, but he can't do anything to improve his stock. He is 1 under, and he is in the clubhouse at this point. Right now, as it stands, he would make the cut, but he's teetering on that line right now. What do you think about the weekend that this could be if Tiger's not in contention? I know we talk about him, and he's obviously the gold standard, the golden ticket for the PGA. But, I mean, can you imagine a situation where, Rory, Thomas, Tiger, Spieth, and all these guys that you watch, Ricky as well, are all going to be at home? Ricky's more than likely going to be at home. He's 1 over, and he is done. So I'm assuming he's going to miss the cut.
Yeah, it looks like he's definitely out. Yeah, I believe the cut, how it's been shaping up, will be -1, maybe -2 if there's a lot of late pushes on the back nine for a lot of these lower scoring guys.
Yeah.
Or higher scoring. So.
Can't believe you didn't take Oosthuizen in our draft.
I know.
You put him on our page, but in the draft you stayed away from him.
I know.
Of course.
And this week I only bet on one golfer, and he was doing all right, but it's not the guy that I usually take, which is Schwartzel. This week I took DeCampu, who's currently in the clubhouse at 7 under for the tournament.
Yeah. Do we have a Nick Watney leaderboard sighting? I know I saw him. He was there earlier. He's -2 right now in the clubhouse, so he's going to be there on the weekend. I had him.
Yeah, unless if mayhem happens or something where -3 is cut, but highly unlikely.
I caught him at 250 to 1 on William Hill, so I was hoping for something big, but
I mean,
you never
if he's there in the weekend, yeah, I mean,
anything's possible.
If he shoots like eight under one round, I mean, that gives him a chance going into Sunday. So
yeah, Jason Duffner actually playing some decent golf. He hasn't done that in a few years.
Yeah.
So looking at this list right now, if you had to look at between Simpson all the way, everybody from T1 to T9. I know you like DeChambeau because that's the guy you bet. Who do you think's a strong candidate to win out of these? What is that? About 14, 15 golfers.
I would have to say Kuchar. I think he knows the course well enough, even though he kind of struggled a little bit towards the end of his round, but he's still 7 under in the clubhouse. I would say he's a strong candidate. He knows the course pretty well. He's been pretty solid, I would say, with his putter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he can make a few critical putts here and there and maybe move up that leaderboard and make a push.
Yeah, they definitely. I'm interested to see, how a couple of these guys' rounds shape up, because I can't imagine the PGA is really feeling really good about Rory, Spieth, Thomas, and Tiger all maybe being at home tomorrow.
Yeah. Simpson just birdied 9 to take the lead.
Gotcha. Yeah, Tiger played okay though. Actually, he was just average. I mean, he actually shot really well in round 1. 4 bogeys is really what set him back on the pace.
Yeah, he did have his 1 eagle, which helped him out for sure. But
right. Friday, 2 birdies, a bogey, and the rest par. It just seemed to me what I saw putting. Putting was fine, but his tee shots were just kind of killing him. On Thursday, putting was fine. Today, putting was a little bit off.
Yeah, his tee shots were what was getting him into trouble.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't giving himself good opportunities at good looks at maybe a possible birdie putt here and there.
And
how he was on Thursday.
Yeah, lefty didn't even get off the bus, it seemed.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like, where was his head even at? I mean,
well, he's missed this cut 5 times in the last 6 years, so it's not like it's not like it's such a surprise.
Yeah, but to blow it up that bad, I mean, of course, I'd be happy to shoot that round, but
I don't know if I'd be happy to shoot 8 bogeys and 4 doubles in a 2-round stretch. Although that's exactly what
I'd be ecstatic with that. I mean, that'd be my best 2 rounds ever. So.
Yeah, no, I've seen you play. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's starting to come together a little. So.
Yeah. Well, at least he tried out his new long sleeve look. Did you see that?
What was that?
I said at least Phil got to try out his new long sleeve shirt in 85-degree Florida weather look. That was kind of when I was watching the broadcast, the telecast, the commentators were, I don't know if poking fun is the right word, but they were kind of giving him some jabs.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you might as well have a little fun with him if he's not going to be there on the weekend.
So anyways, we'll keep tabs on the Players Championship. Follow us on Twitter, Vegas Squares. At Vegas Squares, and then Tony's on Twitter at TokenTony89. You can follow us both there. I might be plugging in some more matchup bets this weekend as they revamp and start getting into pairings. I'll definitely be interested in maybe having to chase some of these other ones. Sergio's playing better than I thought he would. Stenson's still there. I still have a chance, but I didn't think Sergio would have any interest in really going out for this tournament, but I was wrong.
I actually thought the water would get him in trouble a little.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So, well, we'll keep tabs on the TPC Sawgrass Players Championship, and like I said, follow us on Twitter. Let's move into an eventful Game 7 last night, or so we thought it was, because it ended up being a 5-1 score, and even the 4-goal difference wasn't indicative of how much Winnipeg blew out Nashville last night.
No, it was flat off. The first face-off, it was Winnipeg's game to win, so.
Yeah, I mean, Stastny, the guy they got from the Blues for basically nothing, scored 2 goals. Pekka Rinne was pulled, I believe, for the 4th time in this series, 3rd or 4th time, which...
I believe it was his 4th time getting pulled, and he only lasted, 12 minutes?
I believe it was 10, but yeah, pretty much
10,
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
The crazy thing to me is you look at this series, and the Jets in Nashville were 3-0-1. They won 3 of the 4 games and lost the other game in overtime. I mean, you're the President's Trophy recipients, the best team in the league points-wise, and you could barely muster 1 win in your own building in the second round, and that was an overtime that you had to grind out. It's just... That's a pretty poor... I mean, I look at this, it's a pretty poor showing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe there is a curse against the President's Trophies. No wonder why Washington didn't want to win it this year.
I mean, yes, I would say... I mean, sure, I'm sure there is something to that, like the Madden curse as well, but I can't imagine you would not want that home ice advantage. I think that this whole President's Trophy curse really relishes more towards the playoff format. I mean, Washington, like you said, had to play Pittsburgh in the second round. Nashville has to play Winnipeg in the second round. So you're telling me, like, I mean, look at this year's playoffs. Like I said, Boston and Tampa were the top 2 teams points. They happen to both be
and they played in the first round,
and they got to play in the second round.
Oh yeah, second round, yeah.
Same goes with Nashville and Winnipeg. I mean, that should be the 1 and the 2 seed, not really having to meet until the Western Conference Finals. Which, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'll take the fact that the Vegas Golden Knights are there, but based on point standings, you shouldn't have to be facing the best team, or in the Predators' case, the second best team in the second round of the playoffs. In
the second round, yeah.
I think it's a testament to how poor this is set up.
How the playoff format is, yeah. Like I've been saying for a while, I think the NHL just needs to go to 2 conferences instead of 4 divisions and do 1 through 8.
Best 8 teams, yeah.
And, yeah.
1-8, 2-7, 3-6, 4-5. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even adopt the SPHL, where the top seed picks who they want to play first and all that.
Yeah.
From 5 to the 8 seed.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that they would do something like that. I know we talked about that in a previous podcast. I think they'd have a hard time to do that because of the amount of, in my opinion, disrespect that puts on a professional franchise. In a lower tier hockey league, I can see the fun, the value of it by, hey, look, we're going to pick our opponent, and then ironically, what would happen if they beat us?
Yeah. It would be pretty bad if you were the one seed and you picked the opponent and then they just destroyed you.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. I mean, you give your...
Oh, I know. It would make for great hockey, yeah.
Because, I mean, what do you do? If you pick the best team, that's a stupid move. You're not supposed to pick the team of the 4 teams. You're not supposed to pick the best team, record-wise. But if you believe that the best team record-wise of the 4 teams, you match up the best with them, then you would go with that. Or, it's...
Or say there's a couple players out or something, I mean.
Yeah, I mean... And then there was one year where, like, the Kings were the 8th seed. You pick the Kings because you're like, they just backed into the playoffs, and then they kick your ass.
Yeah.
So, Hellbuck was great last night. Like I said, Pekka Rinne, not so much. One thing I kind of thought when I was watching that game, based on what I know about their backup goaltender, UC Saros, and how well he played this year, my initial thought was, have we seen the last of Pekka Rinne in Nashville?
I don't think so. I think he's still around, but maybe he's on thin ice or
No pun
something, or maybe.
No pun intended.
Oh, yeah. Or maybe Nashville might be in the market to trade him out or something. Say a team that might spark interest in if they get enough value for him. So.
Yeah, I just that's the first thing that kind of came to my mind is I think Pekka Rinne might be done, or if he isn't done, like you said, on a short leash, and if somebody's willing, couple teams off my head like the Panthers, the Hurricanes, the Islanders, teams like that in the East. In the West, I don't know of anybody off the top of my head. I mean, I would say Arizona, but they've got a decent goalie in Ranta. I mean,
they've got a few decent goalies, yeah.
Maybe with Corey Crawford's injury history, Chicago with their, I know they're in a rebuilding process, but if you can get a goalie of that caliber, it helps out a lot. Talent on the front line doesn't have to be as good if talent on the back end is exceptional. So, and Pekka Rinne, I believe, is still a good goalie. I mean, he is a Vezina candidate, which I understand, that's, mostly a regular season award, but do you think that this play or this series is going to be stuck in the minds of these guys?
I think it will influence some of the voting for it. I don't think it's enough to totally change whether he would be like first and drop him down to fifth or something, but I could see him going down a spot in the voting due to his performance in the series.
Yeah, I mean, you look at him, they were, like you said, the President's Trophy recipients and, a goalie who's a Vezina candidate on a President's team. It would seem like he would be a shoo-in for that award. But, I mean, Hellbuck, who is another candidate, outplayed him, I would say, at least five, even though they won 3 games. I'd say Hellbuck played better than Pekka 5 out of the 7 games.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, say if the Preds moved on and all that, like even if it came down to overtime, like a 2-1 game or something, then that talk's still stirring a little, but it harshes down a little.
Yeah. So it's just... It'd be interesting. I mean, like I said, my initial thought when he got pulled is that we might have seen the last of Pekka in Nashville. I mean, hope for his sake, maybe I'm wrong.
Possibly. I wouldn't put it out of the question, but realistically, I could see him playing another year, but just on a short lease.
Yeah, so that brings up Winnipeg, wrapping up and rounding out the Final Four. Washington versus Tampa Bay, Vegas versus Winnipeg. Series prices. Tampa Bay is a 180 favorite over Washington, and Winnipeg is a 140 favorite over Vegas. Now, let's talk about Tampa Bay first, because I got a lot I want to talk about the Vegas betting angle. We'll get to that. So let's start with Tampa Bay. I know we talked about this a little bit on the last podcast. The more and more, I mean, I'm a Tampa Bay fan, but the more and more I dissect both these teams, if Holtby is playing on his game, I really like Washington to the value of 160 as a dog in this series price.
I would agree with you. I mean, I think 180 for Tampa Bay's an all right price, but based on how Washington's been playing and all that this season and into the postseason, I think it really relies on goaltending for both teams, and I think Holtby's a little hotter right now than Vasilevsky, in my mind, even though Vasilevsky's came off a really good series against Boston.
I don't know if hotter's the right word. He's made some better saves. He's had some boneheaded plays as well. I think he's playing with a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder because he didn't start the playoffs on the ice. He started the playoffs on the bench. Based on the talent level on these two teams, because I think they both throw out 3 lines that can score, I really like a lot of the overs in this series.
Yeah, I would absolutely have to agree with that. I mean, even if it's 6, I would lean towards the over on most of the matchups and all that. I could see it going 3-3 into overtime, practically half the series,
right,
if not more.
Because I think,
or even being a 3-2 game late in the third and somebody pulling in them and getting an empty net for a push.
Yeah, and the thing is both, like you said, both these goalies are playing well. Vasilevsky's, only lost 2 games. He's 8-2 in the playoffs, but he's just as capable, and Holtby, of just shitting the bed and giving up 4 or 5 goals by himself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So I really like a lot of the overs. According to Vegas Insider here, the under is the one that's being juiced more. The under 6 is minus 120 from what I have.
Yeah, that's what I saw last night and then early this morning, too.
Right. So you have just a situation where I think my goal or my strategy in this is really just to play it for one unit and try to make sure Tampa Bay wins a game and play a chase. Mm-hmm. Play a chase on Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Like you said, I don't see them getting swept at all. So
no, I definitely don't see them getting swept. I definitely don't see them losing the both first 2 games at home either. So I'll probably lay the juice and chase. Lay the juice and chase probably just to get that one win for Tampa Bay and then call it quits. But if I was going to bet the series, I think Washington. There's so much value in Washington at plus 160 because if they do get the first game, and God forbid they get the first 2 in Tampa, you're looking at free money when Tampa Bay becomes the dog.
Yeah, like how Spike with the hockey game yesterday took Winnipeg and then took the Preds, unfortunately, to get that free money, but still ended up with a win, so.
Yeah, he should have just stayed with Winnipeg, but that's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, you live and you learn sometimes. Sometimes it works out if you don't do it, and sometimes it does, so. Well,
I'm the first to always claim the free money, so even if it's a smaller, even if I would have won the original bet, I never liked the sweat. As much as we like the sweat of gambling, you never like the sweat of gambling, so.
No.
So, yeah, that's
absolutely not.
Those are my 2 thought processes. I'll probably just go to chase Tampa Bay not to get swept, which I think is the smarter bet because Tampa Bay can win this series. Washington can win this series. But then I think both teams can win a game. So I'm going to just chase to win a game with Tampa Bay and take my 1 unit and be thrilled.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart play, and I definitely don't see them getting swept. So,
right. So, all right. Well, let's move on to the Western Conference Finals. It's Vegas and Winnipeg. If you have been living under a rock and aren't aware, Winnipeg series price minus 140, Vegas series price plus 120, which is ironically actually the opening line for Game 1 as well. 140 minus for the Winnipeg Jets and 120 plus for the Vegas Golden Knights. Before I get into what I want to talk about, what are your initial thoughts on this series as far as these betting prices?
I like kind of your concept of the Tampa Bay series, probably to chase and win a unit, but for the Vegas side, I think they can get one on the road in Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg's got a few issues and home ice advantage there. It was good during the regular season, but during the postseason, it's not really shown too much.
Well, I mean that is partly true. What you're saying, they definitely laid some eggs against Nashville. Versus the Wild, they were out of control, like awesome.
Yeah.
Nashville is the only team to beat them at home in the last 4 months, if I'm not mistaken, which is absurd. You're right. I think Vegas can win a game in Winnipeg, one of the first 2. However, I think the price for Winnipeg at 140 is so low that a chase value is so high with Winnipeg just to get a game. I think you could almost double chase this at Winnipeg over the first 2 to try to get 1, and then I think Vegas is definitely going to get 1 at home as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's like I said, we're Vegas Golden Knights fans. I can't handicap this entire series.
No, I'm avoiding betting the series at all. I mean, my prediction coming into this, I think Winnipeg wins in 6 or 7. I think the road's over for Vegas.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong, but Winnipeg's strong.
Yeah.
The only thing is, Vegas was 2. They were 2-0 or 1-1-1. No, they were 2-1. Excuse me, against Winnipeg. Winnipeg was 1-1-1. And the one loss that Vegas suffered to Winnipeg was when Legacy was in goal. And they lost 7-4. I mean, that's not Fleury. It's not the same team that exists as it's currently constructed. Winnipeg is really good, though.
Yeah. I think, and this is coming from my Canadian buddy that was on the show a couple months ago, he said this series flatly relies on Hellebuyck and how he can be in goal.
Yeah, he's got I don't see Fleury, unless the defense in front of him completely breaks down, I don't see Fleury all of a sudden being, a goaltender.
Horrible or anything,
who can't all of a sudden stop a puck. So Hellebuyck's going to have to match him at that point. And I think that's what favors Vegas in this spot is because they know what they're getting out of Fleury, or at least that's what we believe. Does Winnipeg really know what they're getting out of Hellebuyck?
I think they somewhat do, but, he can be kind of streaky at sometimes. So
right now he's playing fantastic. And looking at the totals, I imagine the totals will be somewhere around 5.5 or 6 for the entire series.
I'm guessing 5.5, and I was under in pretty much all of them. So
yeah, I like the under in a lot of those games as well because I think Hellebuyck's going to play well, and goals are going to be hard to get in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I see a lot more low-scoring games, like 2-1, maybe 3-1 or something.
Yeah. So with that being said, I'll tell you my bet. I took Tampa Bay and Winnipeg in the first games. I've already got my bets in, so get that. I'll just put that out there. I took Winnipeg in the first game. Sorry, Vegas Golden Knights fans. You'll have to forgive me. Money is the motivation.
Absolutely.
But
completely understandable.
That wasn't actually what I wanted. I was reading, and I've read this. I've been keeping tabs on this story for a couple months now, and I had a conversation with a gentleman who works at a sports book. I'm not going to reveal his name, not going to reveal where he works, but he said that his particular company stands to lose about $40 to $50 million if Vegas wins the Stanley Cup Finals.
Actually, almost seems like a low number. I saw an article based on all the future money intake percentage-wise from a certain sports book, and that percentage-wise intake was about 45% altogether on Vegas throughout the entire season.
Right.
And most of that was early in the year.
Well, that is correct, yes. At the original number, with the bets that came in and the action on the futures, the number actually stood at closer to $100 million. However, there have been a lot of betting against Vegas throughout the course of the year on people that would just assume they were going to be bad. There was a lot of betting on against Vegas throughout the course of the playoffs as well. And from my source, they have been able to recoup a lot of money from those losing tickets of people fading or hedging or taking the opposite side of Vegas right now, because Vegas continues to roll, and if you're fading Vegas, you're doing so at a very big loss.
Yeah, I mean, almost the best way to hedge it at this point, if you haven't done so already, would to be take the opposite team to win the cup. You'd still be getting a little value and all that, but I mean, that's probably the smartest way to hedge and minimize your loss to potentially hedge in the final.
I would almost say the smartest value right now, because all of them, Tampa Bay's the favorite. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think they're a 2-1 or just under 3-1 favorite. Winnipeg is next at, I believe, 3-1. Then it's Vegas again, 3.5-1, and I think Washington's 5-1. I think almost the better hedge. I'll tell you my bet. I have 100 at 150 to 1 for $100. I'll make $15,000 if Vegas wins. my thought process right now before the games start, actually, it may not even be before the games start. I may want to see how these pan out, is to take all three teams to win the Cup.
Okay. Put 100 on each and some number or something like that.
I may put 200 on each. That gives me $600 investment and, $700 total investment, and all three of those are going to win. The worst odds one is going to win me at least $1,200 for a $500 profit, which obviously isn't $15,000, but hey, money is money.
It's still a win, yeah.
And then, of course, if Vegas does win the Cup, then I get $15,000 minus the $700 investment. But Tampa Bay goes up 3-0, on Washington. Washington's Cup odds are going to be astronomical, so there may be just a better spot to just wait there in case of the epic comeback.
Yeah, I would say at this point you could wait until like the elimination game for Vegas and see what happens there.
Well, there's that too. I mean, if Vegas somehow gets out to a big lead, Winnipeg's odds are going to go down too, or go up, I guess. I always say those wrong, but you know what I meant. Yeah, it's just playing the numbers. If Vegas continues to win, if Vegas loses and they're down 3-0, then yeah, I might try something there. So it's going to just be all about playing watching the games, playing the market, playing the numbers, see where they go. But yeah, buddy told me that he definitely sees, unless there's some serious betting on Winnipeg and or the Stanley Cup Finals when that comes, he definitely sees the number actually slowly minimizing back, because Vegas never, William Hill came out with, I don't know what you would call it. They were interviewed by the news station, and they said that they, were standing to be crippled by this. I mean, I can't imagine no book's going to ever let that happen to them.
No,
I feel like it's a public service announcement for you to start fading the other side.
Yeah. So that way they'll minimize their losses.
Yeah, they may take
either way.
Yeah, they may take a hit.
Yeah.
But because the thing is what's scary to them is because of the small investment to pay out such a large dividend. If Vegas doesn't win the Cup, they're not really raking in that much money overall. And obviously, we know that the sportsbook's ideas are to get action on all sides, so that they're not really, forced to take a big hit and collect juice, basically. Because once one of these four teams wins, all 30 other futures bets go right in the trash.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I'm sure there's enough futures bets that came in on Pittsburgh, on these other teams as well, that they,
minimize and at larger values.
Right, because you're going to have to put. I mean, if you bet Pittsburgh again, or if you bet Tampa, or Washington, or even Winnipeg. Winnipeg was a solid team. Nashville as well. You put some futures on those. You were laying more. The odds are you were laying more money. So
I know quite a bit of people that took Edmonton at the beginning of the year too.
Oh yeah, Edmonton. They lit that on fire in November.
Yeah, if not sooner.
Yeah. Game 2.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we'll keep an eye on this. Obviously we'll talk about it in other podcasts. But you got Washington versus Tampa Bay. You got Vegas versus Winnipeg. The Final Four, conference finals, looking to meet up in the Stanleys. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. Let's switch gears. We'll talk about your Lions, because, boy, if there's one thing they are getting headlines for, it's always for doing weird shit. But I wanted to get your initial thoughts on this whole Matt Patricia situation.
Yeah, as a Lions fan, I mean, you wonder what's going to happen out of this, and is Matt Patricia going to be our coach coming into week 1, or maybe not, I don't know. I believe he still is. I believe, according to how exactly the situation panned down and how it's been released so far, is it happened 22 years ago. He was indicted for it, but there was no trial or anything, and pretty much it was tossed out the window.
Yeah, I mean that is the facts. The the only issue with that is, like you said, it was 22 years ago, so we're talking 1996.
Yes.
The reason it was dropped is because the woman, refused to testify. And if, now in our new society that we live in, it's a little bit more easier to come out and have that protection when you testify. So, I really think, I agree with you. I believe Patricia will be the coach week 1. But I really think it depends on the fallout because, and I'm not trying to discredit this woman at all, but in situations like this in the last few years, many people just tend to take the court of public opinion and believe whatever the woman says if they don't like the dude. And I know that sounds very sexist and misogynist, and that's not my intent, my angle. And you know what? And I'm not saying that every woman who comes out is completely lying, but I'm sure there are a few. And I'm not saying that this is that woman. But 22 years. Did you really wait because you didn't feel safe to come out? And now you feel 22 years later, after Matt Patricia's been he's been an assistant coach for 8 years in New England, and New England had no idea, at least allegedly, what they said. And Detroit, I would assume they did enough due diligence. Obviously not enough if they couldn't unearth this 22-year-old sexual assault case, but they did enough due diligence to say, this guy's our coach. And now all of a sudden he's got a head coaching job, and now you want to come out. It just always seems like, I'm not trying to say that they're not unwarranted situations, but why do you wait until this person's reached the pinnacle of what they want to do before you have released 22-year-old information?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, based on statements Patricia said, he's not guilty, and that's moving forward.
That's the truth.
Of course, you're always going to say that, but
he's never found guilty. Whether you believe that statement or not, he is innocent until proven guilty in the court of law, and that never matters.
Absolutely.
That never matters in the court of public opinion, and especially in today's society. If a woman comes out with these allegations, 99% of the people who, I'll say it, lean left, just assume them to be true.
Yeah, absolutely, without a fair trial and all that.
So, I don't want to go down a political road, but I'm with you. I think Patricia's on the sidelines week 1, no doubt about it. But it wouldn't. It would shock me, but it wouldn't be so far out of the realm of possibility that the Lions, the fallout of this, depending on what that might be enough to force the Lions to let him go.
I don't see that happening unless if he is found guilty or something like that.
Well, he's not going to be retried for this. He's not going to be retried.
Yeah.
It's just whatever she comes out with, and that's the thing. She can come out with any story she wants. It may be the truth. It may not. Will it be enough? Will it be enough damning evidence or a damning enough story that it cost Patricia his job? And frankly, I don't. If he gets fired, maybe hopefully Bill will hire him back.
Yeah, I don't see us getting rid of him due to the situation that's happened, but I see they might investigate this case more thorough and go from there from that. So we'll have to keep an eye on those because, like you said, I think he's on the sidelines week 1, but anything can happen. We've seen now this is more smoking gun evidence. We've seen an owner of a basketball team be forced to relinquish it for similar, not sexual allegations, but a similar situation where he did something or he was, caught on tape. People have been forced. Now they're going after Mark Cuban. So, and nobody is immune from this new world we live in. Nope. No, it's once people get more higher up in power and in the sports world, it brings more opportunities for those people to speak up.
Yeah, look at Kevin Spacey. And to use another example, Kevin Spacey, this 35-plus-year-old allegation was held under wraps, and now with House of Cards, he was one of the most sought-after movie stars, on planet Earth, and then all of a sudden, this comes out 35 years later, and then House of Cards no longer exists anymore after this next season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's I don't know what's the fallout. I assume he'll be on the sidelines week 1, but you just never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sure hope he's on the sidelines week 1. It'd be nice to see him do well and succeed with my football team, but, I mean, you never know, so.
Yeah, it's, I mean, like you said, you never know. I mean, who knows? He may not be that great of a head coach, but it's not fun when you would never know because he never got the chance.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Tony, I know you got to get to work, so I will let you go, and I am going to bring in another guest host onto the program, Tony, later, and it is my good buddy in Florida, Jason. Jason, what's going on, brother?
Not much, buddy, not much. Preparing for this heat wave coming this weekend.
Heat wave? Isn't Florida like pretty much a heat wave all but like a week?
Well, we had a good 2 weeks of hard winter down here, so the grass is still turning green and the leaves are still coming back. So
poor baby.
We're strapping down.
Poor babies, poor baby. You couldn't go in the pool for a whole 2 weeks.
I know it was miserable.
Yeah. Speaking of miserable, how would you feel if you just won Coach of the Year and got fired 2 days later?
I figured that'd be the first thing we talked about today, and I couldn't believe it. The landslide for Coach of the Year, especially beating out Brad Stevens, who took a team to the playoffs without Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, and now they're in the NBA Eastern Conference Finals. But you win 59 games, the most wins that franchise has ever had, and they can you.
And now
because your guys don't perform.
And you're updating your resume.
Yeah, exactly. But like I was lots of other sources today, he won't go long without a job. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually, I mean, when we talked about, before we were setting up our itinerary here, and my first question was, what now for the Raptors? And then initially when I wake up today, they fire their coach. I'm like, I guess that's what now for the Raptors at this point.
Well, not only that, but you got contracts coming up in the next couple of years with a few of their big stars.
Yeah, you got Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, who are probably due. I mean, do you blow it up at this point because you can't beat LeBron? So do you blow it up and wait for him to retire or move to the West?
Obviously, you're not beating LeBron. The last 3 years, they've lost 20 playoff games, I think, in 20 playoff games in Dwayne Casey's career. 16 of them in the last 3 years have been to LeBron.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. You're not beating LeBron, and I mean after you're not beating LeBron. I mean, if you can't beat him, do you join him? You're not joining him. I don't see Tyronn Lue going anywhere with the Cavs.
Right.
Even though LeBron's pretty much the coach of that team.
Yeah, let's not sugarcoat that. I mean, LeBron pulls the strings on Woody, on Tyronn Lue there.
Yeah.
Well, that's the question I have, because it seems like, I'm a pretty superficial basketball fan. I watch it from a distance. I don't really get too in depth with it. But, it seems like to me a lot of the teams in the East, with the exception of Boston, Philadelphia, they seem to be in this little period of, I don't want to use the T word, but in this period of just kind of meddling down on the bottom, waiting for LeBron to either get the hell out, whether that be the Western Conference or retiring. I mean, I personally see Toronto potentially in the next couple of years. They still, like you said, they still got guys under contract for the next year. But after that, maybe shipping those guys away for picks or just unloading contracts at that point. Can you see the Raptors kind of going back down to the bottom of the barrel, in hopes that LeBron – because, look, I mean, even though LeBron is gone, Boston and Philadelphia are on the up and up, and these Eastern Conference teams can't do this forever.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And if being in the Raptors' shoes, they're known for letting players go. They let. Vince Carter isn't an all-around great basketball player, but he's a star. He sells tickets. He gets people to gel. They let him go. They let, Chris Bosh go in his prime. Look what Chris Bosh did. He went and won 2 rings with the Heat.
Tracy
Tracy McGrady. I'm going to tell you right now, they're not going to see another 59-win season. in the next, I would say, next 5 years, because you're talking a whole new rebuild, bringing in a new coach, because I doubt he's the only guy on the coaching staff that's without a job today. I doubt they kept his distance. I doubt they, you know what I mean? It's, and wherever he's going to go, his acquaintances are going to go right next to him.
Yeah, he's definitely, he was on, not Detroit, he was on Dallas's coaching staff when they beat Miami. So many wonder if the reason he got fired is because he almost had the key to beating LeBron, but that's LeBron 7 years ago.
Yeah, true.
So I wonder if, like you said, players play, coaches coach, but at the end, coaches get fired and players get paid, which I don't understand that at all. But I don't think I could see DeRozan staying, but I can't see Lowry. I think the last time they gave Lowry the max deal, it was already a head scratcher, so I can't see them giving Lowry another one, in my opinion.
No, I don't either. I don't either. Like you said, do you want the max deal at this time? Do you want the money and play to get to the playoffs every year to lose to LeBron James as long as he's in the East? Do you want the money, or do you want to go somewhere with at that high level of talent? Do you want to go somewhere like Kevin Durant and join the Caps. Take less money, join the Caps.
Yeah.
Take less money, go out west. Kawhi Leonard was seen at a Dodgers game yesterday in Los Angeles. The fans were going nuts. Right.
Yeah.
They think he's coming to the Lakers already.
Well, you pair that guy with PG-13. It's all but a virtual certainty that he'll be headed to Los Angeles. That's my guess.
No doubt. But to get back to where we were about the coach, what are the Knicks are probably scratching their head and jumping the gun so quick, because I'm sure they'd probably like to have Dwayne Casey than the guy they just hired.
Yeah, that's probably a good assessment. You don't think they would get rid of a guy to do it, but the Knicks are just a dumb enough franchise, they may do it, so we'll see.
Yeah, and the Knicks took a guy that's got an under 500 team with I believe he came from the Grizzlies, I believe. And
who did they hire? Who did they hire?
They hired one second.
They hired Hollins or whatever his name was? Or no, they hired Fizdale, right?
Yeah, David Fizdale.
Yeah, take that for dad. I remember that guy. That's all I remember him for.
Yeah, that's. I didn't quite get that. You're the Knicks, and I understand that. The Knicks are desperate right now. I don't understand why they jumped the gun so quick. The season's not even over, and the first firings has taken place, and it's the coach of the year.
Well,
I can guarantee the front office is scratching their head right now.
I guess the front office may have an excuse, because who the hell thought the coach of the year was getting the axe?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and the crazy thing is, you said he beat out Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens got 0 votes for coaching.
0 votes. But if you're the I hate to jump around, but if you're the Celtics, do you shop Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving in the offseason? Because you just made it to the Eastern Conference Finals without either one of them.
Yeah, no, that's crazy theories.
You got the best coach in basketball. Putting guys together. You got a lot of young guys in there. You got Al Horford playing like he was in 2008 with the Gators, where they won back-to-back national championships. The guy's lights out.
Yeah.
Shooting 6'10" from the line, shooting threes, posted up, dunking, alley-oops, everything.
He's got a sense of energy to him now. It's he's playing for something, because when he was in the Hawks, they were usually first round and out. Now he's, I believe, if not mistaken, this is the first time he's ever been this far. So, he's got to have a sense of pep in his step.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
What you just talked about that, and on face value, I already told you it was crazy, but I understand what you're saying, what Brad Stevens did with what he did or didn't have. I can't imagine Danny Ainge is going to trade the first pick in the draft, that Brooklyn pick, for Kyrie Irving, only to immediately flip him. And then Gordon Hayward, I could see a crazy scenario, Gordon Hayward being traded for a monster situation, but Boston's only got to get better when those guys come back.
Oh, no doubt. You got Tatum. Was it the first rookie in NBA history with 20-plus points in 7 straight games? in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think the stat was something like that. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
that guy's out of control.
Yeah, and he's not even really getting, between Simmons and Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum's the forgotten guy in those Rookie of the Year discussions.
Yeah, he's another product of Duke. I mean, how many guys from Duke? I mean, if Kyrie was on the floor, there'd have been like 4 or 5 guys that that wore Duke uniforms in that final game for the Cavs and Celtics.
Yeah,
that's a product of Duke. I mean, if you're the Celtics, do you go out and trade Hayward for a lottery pick or to get up in the first round and maybe try to get the Duke center that's playing lights out, who's going to be probably a number 2, number 3 pick in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of any team that's I'm going to use the Philly term. I don't know of any team right now that's trusting the process that really wants to take on the contract of Gordon Hayward, though.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about that.
So,
no doubt about that.
I mean, I could see a situation where if they were considering trading him to the Spurs for Kawhi Leonard, I could see something like that coming about. Because
true.
Gordon Hayward may make sense in San Antonio just as much as Kawhi might make sense in Boston. So that's a trade I could see, maybe a 25% chance of happening. Those are the highest odds I would give for Gordon Hayward, considering, he's played all of, 3 minutes in a Boston Celtic uniform. You got to give the guy a chance, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know.
Well, let's look at Boston's opponent, and obviously we know it's the LeBron Jameses, a.k.a. the Cleveland Cavaliers. Needing 7 against the Pacers, but is it just a matchup thing? You need 7 against the Pacers, and you need 4 against Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, how many people? There was people, I mean, it was off the walls, but I mean, there were some people having the Raptors sweep the Cavs.
Right, and you had when Indiana went up 2-1 in the series, you already had Vegas bets coming out of where LeBron's destination was, and was he going to leave? I mean, we were already moving on to his off season at that point at 2-1.
Yeah, that's scary. That's scary. But I mean, he was down 3-0 in the finals, 3-1 in the finals, came back and won it.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, I don't think ball. I mean, it might go 5 or 6 games. Obviously, I mean, they got 4 games in the Garden, and I mean that place was ecstatic. I mean the place was rocking. The last game they played over versus the Sixers. I mean, that's going to be a tough place to play. But then again, I mean, you're playing against arguably one of the best basketball players to ever play the game. And that's LeBron James, and you're rallying around him. And you got Kyle Korver. I mean, if you can get 20, 25 out of Kevin Love, and Korver can get 15, 16 points, and I mean and LeBron James is going to score 30, 35 a game.
Well, and right. And that's the situation, is the role players on this team, because I mean, in basketball, you look, we've got the great players. You got the Michaels, you got the LeBrons, the Larry Birds, but you also have the guys, the Kerrs, the Kukocs. You got the McHales and Parrish. It's a team game as much as we value the superstars in the NBA. Do you, looking at this matchup, it sounded like you already said Cleveland, you prefer Cleveland to win, or not prefer Cleveland, you believe Cleveland's going to win in this series, which leads me to believe you prefer the veteran role players versus the young guys, the Tatums, the Browns, those guys. So it sounds like you really prefer a more veteran-laden squad.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. I mean, Korver's been in the league for a while. Kevin Love's got a ring. LeBron's, got rings. I mean, J.R. Smith. I mean, J.R. Smith gets clicking. I mean, it's over. The guy's got handles. I mean, you could possibly have 5 guys on the court that can shoot the 3 at all times for the Cavs.
Right.
LeBron James showed that in the playoffs. He's hitting threes, and he's hitting deep threes. And Kyle Korver's like, it's like J.J. Redick. They shoot the ball, it's going in. Mm-hmm. It's going in. I mean, J.J. Redick had that off-balance shot to get the game within 1 point at the end of that game with 2 seconds left. I mean, I thought it was pretty much over, but I mean, that's a clutch shooter. He did it at Duke. He's still doing it in the NBA, and he's getting up there in age, too. I mean, I think that's what's going to happen. His maturity is going to outdo the young guns with the Celtics.
Yeah, it almost looks like he mimics this this Cavaliers team right after those Heat teams. I mean, you have the Bosch and the Love connection as far as the similar type of player. You have the Kyle Korver, Ray Allen connection. Obviously, LeBron is the same on both teams. Who's his Dwayne Wade though? Is that who is that? Is that Clarkson? Is that like a Rodney Hood? Is it George Hill? Who's the Dwayne Wade guy on this Cleveland?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't think there is a Dwayne Wade on the Cleveland team because they kind of thought alike. Whenever you watched them, LeBron James and D Wade play, they were always looking at each other in the corner of the eye. They knew what one person was going to do. I think a lot of these rookies, not rookies, but a lot of these fresh meat to the team are still trying to find that. But who knows? Like I said, LeBron James is the coach. They're going to, if they tell him to jump, they're going to say how high. And I think that's what's going to happen. Ultimately, bottom line. But I don't think there's D Wade vision on that team because I wouldn't doubt it if they slept together in bed with onesies on D Wade and LeBron James when they played together because that's how much that if you just watch the old finals, it was LeBron James was passing the ball, not even looking. There's Dwayne Wade, same thing, vice versa. He knows LeBron James is coming around the wing. He's going to come baseline. He's coming back up, and he just throws the ball. LeBron's there. He's not even looking.
Fair enough. I will tell you, though, that onesie image is something I can't unsee. Now, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Before I talk about the finals, let's go over to the Western Conference. And this was the matchup that everybody wanted to see. And if you know the NBA, the talent prevails 99% of the time, and we got it. Golden State and Houston. You got, the Big Four against the Big Two. And, many people, Houston's got the home field advantage or home court advantage, but many people really aren't giving them a chance, even with the MVP.
I believe it was a game 2 the Jazz took from Houston in Houston?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was game 1 or game 2 that the Jazz took. I think this first game is really important. If they the Rockets got to win this first game. Got to win this first game, and they got to win the first game. I'm going to tear it out. Golden State's not going to lose both games to open up the series in Houston. They're not going to lose both games.
Okay.
And you're going to have to shoot the three just as good as the. This is going to be a live by the 3, die by the 3 series
for both.
Eric Gordon for the Rockets has been lights out with the 3 ball. He's going to have to carry this over. If they're going to have a chance with the Warriors for sure.
Who guards Durant?
Who guards Durant?
Is it Capella? Capella? Yeah, it just seems like you guard Durant, then you've got the other 3. You guard Draymond, or you guard Steph. You got the other 3. It's like no matter who you guard, you got the other 3. I just don't know if the Rockets.
I'm telling you right now, Chris Paul is going to be all up in Curry's grill. They grew up. They're not the same age, but they grew up an hour and a half away from each other in North Carolina.
Right.
So this is kind of like a, you're pissing on my territory kind of deal. Even though they're across the country, but. I don't think Chris Paul wants to. He's finally got a chance to do it, and I believe either one of these teams could beat the Cavaliers and the Celtics no problem at all in 5 or 6 games. If they went to that.
And that's what everybody's saying. Like, this should be the NBA Finals matchup. Obviously, it can't be based on the playoff format and the Eastern-Western Conference systems. And that was, what I would. Cleveland and Boston in their series, are they basically just playing for the runner-up trophy at this point?
Exactly. But then again, you can't count out LeBron James. You can't. But if it, you can't count him out. But put it this way, I've got my money on the Western Conference to win it.
Well, considering over the last 3 years, I can count out LeBron James if he doesn't have Kyrie Irving as his sidekick.
Very true. Very true.
When he doesn't, they lose. When he does, they win. I'm not saying that it's all Kyrie, but, that kind of sidekick does help. It was maybe not the greatest idea to run him out of town, but that's a whole nother bag of worms we don't want to open.
No.
Yeah, I think Golden State or Houston, whoever comes out of this series, is definitely the champion. I just don't know if Houston, like you said, CP3 is a fantastic both two-way player. Capella, a median kind of player, is going to play the post, but he can definitely be guarded by a lot of players on the Golden State roster.
No doubt.
I just don't know if Harden's going to play enough defense, and Harden's been known to not show up in these situations. Harden's the catalyst. If he can be the James Harden that's supposed to be the MVP this year, even at that level, I still think they may only get 2 games out of this series, at best.
Yeah, no, like you said, Harden's got to play, he's got to shoot 56+%. And, he's got to shoot the 3. He's got to play defense, like you said. Because you got, everybody on the Warriors is shooting the 3 too. Klay Thompson. That guy. If Curry went down, obviously it meant nothing for Curry going down. Klay Thompson was just there shooting threes. And Kevin Durant. He's so tall, he jumps up. It looks like he's just tossing the ball in the hoop,
right,
from the 3-point line.
Yep.
It looks too easy.
So let's look at this from a betting angle. We have game 1 for both of these squads. Let's look at Cleveland is opening up as a 1.5-point favorite on the road against Boston. What are your thoughts on that?
I like Cleveland. They got more. It'll probably be 2-3-point game, no doubt. And but they got the rest. They got the rest they needed. Mm-hmm. And I just honestly don't think there's enough Celtics guys to guard what the Cavs have and what they have going right now.
Fair assessment. And on the flip side, in the Western Conference, Houston opens up as a 1.5-point favorite at home against Golden State. You said Houston has to win this game. So what are your thoughts on that 1.5 the Rockets way?
Oh man,
that's a tough.
I like it at home. I would really like to see the Rockets win the whole series. I like them winning this first game for sure. They got a lot behind them. They've got. It's crazy. It's crazy to think. And I don't want to throw this out there or mean any disrespect by this, but look at the past natural disasters that's happened in America, and look at the sports teams that have been behind them that won it. Mm-hmm. Okay, Katrina shortly after New Orleans won the Super Bowl. Other things have gone around.
9/11 with the Patriots.
God bless. Exactly. God bless America. 9/11. You had the Subway Series.
Yeah, that too. I forgot about that.
And then you had the hurricane in Houston. Astros went out there and killed it.
Yeah.
Then Houston's going to be rallying around this right here. They'll be title town. They'll be title town again if they can win this.
Well, that's good. So by your logic, the Vegas Golden Knights will be Stanley Cup champions. So that's a good thing.
Hey, could you imagine? What were they plus? What was their odds to win it? Vegas Knights.
I caught a ticket in May of 2017, which was about a year ago. I caught a ticket at 150 to 1. After the expansion draft, and they actually had players, their odds actually increased to 200 to 1. I did not catch a ticket as large as I placed on my 150 to 1. But yeah, the worst odds I saw for them, or the best odds, depending on how you look at it, was 200 to 1 to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I've got money on. Well, I put money on Lightning before the season started to win it all. When they were, I can't remember what they were, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, those are my 2 favorite teams, and as much as it excites me that they may meet up in the finals, I'm also very frightened that may actually occur because I don't know who to root for.
Yeah, that's kind of like I can see right now, like one of those old throwback football jerseys with
split it in half.
Half Lightning and half Kings jersey.
Yeah, I might just have to make one of those if that happens. I'm praying for one of them to get in. Okay, if both happen, I might pull my hair out at that point. So
yeah, I couldn't imagine. That's like I grew up a Chargers fan, and we got the Carolina Panthers in North Carolina in '95, And so, like, I've always said to myself, I'm in the gutters every year with these teams, anyways. So I mean, it's like, but I'm loyal.
Right.
I couldn't imagine. I wouldn't watch the Super Bowl if the Chargers and Panthers played in it. I would wake up and be like, okay, who won? They wouldn't be able to deal with stress.
That's fair. I just said if they made it, I'm just going to root for a 7-game series with each game just being epic. That's the best you can hope for. You don't want to blow out one way because you feel bad for one of your teams. You just have 7 hard-fought games, and a puck bounces the wrong way one time. So.
Exactly.
So, all right, Jay. Well, we appreciate it, man. We're going to have you on a lot more, and a lot more episodes. So we definitely look forward to your insight, not only on just basketball, but other sports as well. So, guys, if we appreciate Jason coming on. If you're listening, shoot him over, catch him on Facebook. Are you on Twitter?
I don't know if I'm on Twitter or not. I know I'm on Twitter, but I don't think I've ever used it. Like, I have one Instagram photo, and that's of my son with, like, a Duck Dynasty beard filter when he was 1 year old. That's the only photo I have on Instagram. I only use Facebook, but I need to start using the others, I guess.
Well, I'm going to take that as a no on the Twitter until you get up to speed with that. But definitely keep track, as Jason will be on more podcasts as well. Jay, we appreciate you, brother.
Hey, no problem, brother. Take it easy. Appreciate it.
All right, man. And that was Florida Jason. He's over there, a Chargers fan. I know he grew up in North Carolina, but how do you get all the way out to the Chargers? Must have been maybe a Kellen Winslow thing at that point. So, well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. Thanks again to Token Tony and Jason for coming on and sharing their knowledge. Token Tony and I will be back on the next episode. Hopefully Spike will be available. He's been AWOL a little bit lately. He's got a lot going on at work with everything, and he's been, every Vegas Golden Knights playoff game as well. So we hope to have Spike back on the podcast as well. Let's see. We got to thank our sponsors. Thank you very much to 12 Ounce Sports Radio for hosting our garbage or nonsense podcast. We thank you. You can catch us every Tuesday night and Saturday morning over on 12ozsportsradio.com. Also the Forward Mile Podcast Network, forwardmile.com. You can subscribe to their daily fantasy services, get access to our premium podcast, and also chaipoker.net as well. So for Token Tony, for Jason, I am Aaron. Appreciate you listening. We will catch you next time.